precinct level slots are just sitting there. They're volunteer positions. Doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of your time. We have to fill them all up as soon as possible and then elect real Republicans. No? So what's the goal? We got to get to hand counted paper ballots, no machines, mail ballots only for military and invalids, small precincts, one-day election, and of course, you got to have an ID. How do you get there? Work backwards from that goal. We have to have America First state legislators and governors. How do you get that? Well, they got to win the primary and then they got to win the general election. We have to have America First winners of primaries and generals. Go to the left. How are we going to make that happen? You got to have much greater turnouts, not 60% like we just had in Wisconsin yesterday or the day before. It's only 60% turned out. Where were all the Republicans? I don't know where they were, but they didn't turn out. Every Republican Party precinct committeeman slot has to get filled by a volunteer America Firster. And then we have to learn how to get turnout happen. And you can go to my site, precinctstrategy.com, go to the how-to videos page, and I've got a video that explains how to do it. This hasn't changed since 2008. 2007 is when I became a PC here I'm in Arizona right now, but I'm going back to Wisconsin shortly. This hasn't changed. We have a half-strength party fighting amongst moderates and conservatives, ideologically split, no ground game, no message. Why? Why can't we have it like this, where we get 75% of the slots filled by conservatives? Why can't we? I'll tell you why. Because conservatives don't seem interested in it. The establishment Republican members of the Uniparty hope you will continue to stay out of their party, and they are not going to recruit you. And why don't all the people who ought to be recruiting you recruit? Incumbent office holders, they just love everything to stay just the same. Once they get in office, even if they're conservative, they're not going to recruit PCs. Conservative candidates generally fear that they might recruit to become PCs might turn on them and help somebody else. The RNC and state party officers, they don't want more PCs because they want to stay in their positions. Everybody will ask for your time and your money and your sweat, but they won't recruit you to become a PC or ask you to become a ball player in the real ball game of politics. So I don't blame them for that. I don't get mad about it. I try to get even. That's why I try to recruit precinct committeemen so we can take over this party so we can save our republic. The key is America First Americans have to take over the Republican Party as an organizational tool for achieving their political goals, period. And we have failed to do that. The numbers don't lie. Over half of these slots still are vacant. Again, see the difference? Half strength, ideologically split party, full strength, 75% voting majority. Why can't we make that happen? This is another depiction of the power vacuum. 200,000 vacancies, 100,000 others, 100,000 Trump PCs. And then when you elect local committee officers, county committee officers, state committee officers, national committee officers, you get a mishmash. See what it could be if we filled up those 200,000 vacancies? Every committee, local, county, state, and national committee would be filled with America Firsters running the party, not the moderates that are doing it now. Again, see the difference? So where are we going to get them? 74 million voted for Trump in 2020. 77 million did in 2024. Why can't we get 0.3% of those numbers to become the 200,000 that we need? I don't know why, but it's not happening. Donald Trump endorsed my precinct committeeman strategy, you may know, but he doesn't recruit, unfortunately. Somebody's telling him not to do it. So we got to do it ourselves. The missing ingredient to saving the republic by getting rid of these machines, by changing the state legislatures, is the precinct committeeman strategy. Conservatives like you and me, we've all got to become recruiting machines. So this is my 3-step strategy to restore America. Step 1, pray. I recommend 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. I think enough people prayed that in 2024 to get Donald Trump back into the White House. Now we have to fill up the vacancies and Trumplify the party for him so that the midterms are not a debacle. And then we repeat steps 1 and 2. Pray, recruit precinct committeemen, repeat. Everybody on this call ought to be one. And if you can't be, then become a recruiter. And this is how you can contact me, Dan@precinctstrategy.com. My site is precinctstrategy.com. I did this PowerPoint in my podcast today. I pre-recorded it before this call. It'll air at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to watch it, go to precinctstrategy.com at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then click on the third button that takes you to my Rumble account, Cold Warrior 1978, Cold Warrior 1978, and watch the podcast. If you want this PowerPoint, let me know. I'll send it to you, Dan at precinctstrategy.com. I'm out. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dan. Now we have Gary Meyers, who has the Meyers Roundtable Report. A tremendous guy. I just met him about 6 months ago, and he has lots of information. Gary, you there?
While Gary is getting ready. Okay, great. Gary, you're there? Go ahead, Gary.
Yes, I am.
We can see you.
Can you see me?
Yes,
Okay.
you look great.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Steve. I think Steve wanted me on here in part to put a perspective, because if you listen to some of the people on this call, you may want to slit your wrists, but I don't think that is the case at all. The Election Integrity Network is a real movement, and it's not alone. It's part of a major cultural shift that's impacting the United States and is actually starting to affect the rest of the world. It's just that when you're looking at just election integrity, you may think that you're alone, and we're not at all. And Steve asked me to explain this different perspective, which is more all-encompassing. We've been running a very private think tank for 43 years, which began its focus on economics. Today, our group has 150 people in the United States and abroad, and our experts are not academicians. They are real people who were at particular events or participated in, or they did the original research that everyone else talks about. We cover a raft of subjects, including election integrity, and some of our members and forecasters are on this platform today. Historically, we've been making forecasts on different subjects, including election outcomes, election integrity efforts, economics, science, geopolitical events, and trends. Our latest set of forecasts, 172 in number, were made in October, November, and December of last year. The subjects included President Trump winning the electoral vote, which I didn't think was that hard, but also the popular vote when the betting odds had that at 37%. We also forecast commodity prices, restrictions on foreign ownership of U.S. land, the timing of when the southern border would be shut down, the first Israeli-Hamas exchanges, and we're talking about almost to the day, the upcoming ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, U.S. mortgage rates, Fed policy, and a lot more. The point is, we made these forecasts on the efforts of the Election Integrity Network because we think that victory is coming. It's still going to be a battle, but it's coming. And by the way, of the 172 forecasts that we made, 77 are measurable, and so far we're 76 right and 1 wrong, with 95 to be determined. That's a 98.7 accuracy rate. If anyone wants the forecast, I'm just going to send out the email address right now. In any case, we see the Election Integrity Network as winning. As I said, it's a movement, and I think you all know that. However, when the dark days are coming, or when we go through them, you got to look at other things to see the overall trend that's impacting the nation. You all know that we are a movement, but in addition, the massive culture change that's affecting every place. Think of it this way. The emperor has new clothes. In addition to election fraud being taken seriously, climate change fraud is being debunked. Vaccine mandates, the COVID vaccines are being shown as being dangerous, and the vaccine mandates are being lifted. Stop illegal immigration. The UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, just last week called for a meeting of 40 nations to try and figure out how to stop it. People everywhere are rejecting lawfare against political opponents, and everyone is with people are being sued. And we all know this. If you disagree with the establishment, but now the complaints and the demonstrations are coming in the UK, France, Germany, Romania, many other places. Everywhere also, there seems to be a growth of spirituality and religiousness. This is not a small thing, because very simply, believe in God, don't believe in God. When we live by the 10 commandments, things are better. Wokeness is being rejected. Gaslighting of the acceptability of transgender ideology is being rejected because it doesn't work, even in a practical sense. There are attractive single women out there who are professionals and are achieving in the Gen X and millennial periods of groups, and they're having problems finding guys to date because the woke soy boys don't make good mates, they don't make good partners, and they don't make protectors of family. You can blame that on the war on boys and the theories of toxic masculinity. This is just one of the many things that have been going on that have been attacking the basic structure of our society, including the basic family unit. However, there's hope coming. Generation Z, teens in their late teens and mid 20s are adopting a more conventional attitude toward many things. They have a more conventional attitude toward marriage, casual sex, and voting. They are becoming conservative. They are supporting free speech. They are becoming more religious. They are voting conservative. They are getting married and want to have children, where their predecessors in Gen X and millennials were questioning whether or not they should bring children into the world. The bottom line for elections is this. By the time the midterms come around, the economy will be recovering. It'll be recovering nicely, and we will win unless we screw it up. However, it's going to work. The economy will be there. Trump is doing a tremendous job. And don't forget those immortal words. It's the economy, stupid, and we're going to win it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to have somebody from Pima County on, because we always talk about Maricopa County. We haven't talked about Pima, so we're going to bring on Tim Lau, who's a retired database person and a veteran who took the oath to defend the Constitution, and that's what he's going to do. Come on down, Tim. Glad to have you.
That's right, Steve. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. Yeah, we have a lot of problems down here in Pima, and I'm frankly a little sick and tired of hearing about Maricopa County. They got all the money, the attorneys. Nobody ever hears about Pima County, and we did analysis of chain of custody documents and data for the 22 election cycle. Last year, during the primary, we presented a lot of that evidence to the Board of Supervisors here, and strangely enough, the county recorder must have been listening, because they changed their chain of custody documents. And interestingly enough, they actually gave us more information and more ammo. So, for example, we had for the general election in the 24 cycle, we had 44 site issued ballot boxes that were held overnight. We had 22 mail drop boxes that were held overnight. We had one courier I call Speedy. He picked up 5 boxes from the downtown recorder's office, with time starting from 9:24 in the morning to 9:54 in the morning. And then he went out to the east side location recorder's office and picked up 4 more ballot boxes starting at 10:01, which means he went about I would say 15 miles at 10 o'clock in the morning in 4 minutes. Now, that's only part of the problem. There were 9 boxes total. 3 of them had exactly 150 ballots. 3 boxes had exactly 200 ballots. And 1 box had exactly 300 ballots. But, you know, this is Pima County. There's nothing to see here. This is a communist stronghold down here. The mayor of Tucson is part of the Communist Party USA. Raul Grijalva, who just passed away, member of the Communist Party USA. His daughter, who just resigned from the Board of Supervisors to run for his seat, is a member of the Communist Party USA. Kirsten Sinema as well. So we just have these kinds of problems. So the county recorder, we have 15 counties in Arizona. Pima is the only one that will not allow political observers at early vote locations. I wonder why that is. As far as UOCAVA goes, there's no sanctity in that. There's, when people are allowed to email their ballots in, anyone that receives these can see who it is. So you've got a ballot there. We talked with one individual who actually did the transcribing of these so that they could be tabulated. He said the majority of those ballots came in as Democrat, voting for Democrat, which doesn't seem right. And also with UOCAVA, the county recorder stated that 2,741 UOCAVA ballots were mailed out, but for some strange reason, we received 4,682 ballots. And 1,728 of those were received after the election day. My understanding is they weren't supposed to be counted. And our voter rolls, we have a real problem with that. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. I don't know how it is in other states, but 13 of the 15 counties use the Secretary of State's database for the purpose of elections. 2 counties, Maricopa and Pima, have proprietary databases. I have a copy of the Secretary of State's database. It's a little old, but I went back to the data during that time. There are records on the Secretary of State's database that aren't on Pima. There are records on Pima that aren't on the Secretary of State's database. So when it comes to cleaning the voter rolls, it's actually an impossibility in Arizona from my point of view. Voter rolls, we've got over 150,000 people on the voter rolls that have absolutely no vote history whatsoever. And this is just it's just a real problem. In response to, let's see, Steve Schultz, he had talked about the Arizona legislature is, yes, both Senate and the House are Republican, but we have this governor, her name is now Veto Katie. Any election integrity bill that is pushed through that's going to be good for the state of Arizona is going to get vetoed by her. She's already vetoed a ton of them. And that's only part of the problem. A good majority of the legislators up there are rhinos. We've got this big uniparty here in Arizona, and as well as other states. So, that's just the problem. And I apologize, I'm not in uniform today. I don't have a flag shirt. But the point is, with regard to Pima County itself, it wasn't just Republicans that were disenfranchised in the 24 election cycle, and I dare say previous election cycles to that. We have people, Democrats, that were disenfranchised as well. So this isn't a Republican issue here. It's a Pima County issue that covers both parties. And as far as the county recorder, again, they have their tentacles everywhere. Fraternities, sororities, rehab locations, shelters. My wife and I bought a car last year. We were in the finance office. This is Precision Toyota. I'll go ahead and call them out. During that process, we were asked, are you registered to vote? And I said, well, that's none of your business, but no, yes, we are registered to vote. Why? And he said, well, because I can register you here to vote. Okay, so there we talk about the APIs again. Does that information go to DMV and then passed up through, all the way up to Maricopa and then back down to Pima through one of their feeds? Or is it a straight API into our local Oracle database here? I really don't know. The point is they should not be doing that sort of thing. It's not their job to do that. And that's pretty much everything that I have. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I'm sorry, I do have the biggest thing. We published a 54-page doom and gloom report, as I call it. We went around to, my partner and I went around to all of the legislative district meetings, and we did our dog and pony show, and we were asking signatures for support. So what we did was we made 3 copies of that report. We took the original signatures, made 2 more copies of it. We sent a copy to President Trump, a copy to Pam Bondi, and a copy to Kash Patel. We need help in Pima County. We never get any help. This is low-hanging fruit here. What the things that we found, they're so easy to go after, and I just don't understand why we never ever get any help. So we thought, since President Trump has said we catch you cheating, we're going to come after you. I hope we can hold him to his word. But if anybody has any suggestions, we have no money down here. We have no attorneys willing to prosecute this. We need to go after our county recorder. She's just she's bad news. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Go
Since
ahead.
my name was mentioned, it's actually Dan Schultz, not Steve Schultz.
I'm sorry. Dan
That's okay.
Schultz.
That's okay. I have a cousin named Steve Schultz. With respect to the federal elections, read Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 of the Constitution. With respect to the federal elections for the House and the Senate, the state legislators do not need a governor's signature. They have plenary power over the conduct, the times, the places, and manner of the federal elections. Parallel to the state elections, they could get rid of the machines if they wanted to. Why don't they do it? I'll tell you why. They're not afraid of conservatives in Arizona, period. Thanks.
True.
Thanks very much,
Okay,
Dan.
Dan.
We got to move
You're
on.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, put your information in the chat, and so people know how to get a hold of you.
Will
Next
do.
up-
Thank you.
Next up is Marcell Strbich, retired Air Force intelligence colonel, and in Ohio statewide elections, does a tremendous job. He'll tell you what he's been doing lately. Come on down, Marcell.
All right, this is great to be with everybody today, and everybody heard Jim Womack break down eloquently what the executive order is about. And we also heard Dan Schultz really make it and drive the point home that the solutions for this, as much as we want it to be in Congress, as much as we want it to be through an executive order, are going to come down to our actions, our organization at the state level. To that end, I've been involved for the last 2 years in Ohio, either co-authoring legislation, getting types of resolutions before our central committee, for example, this executive order, or even driving concerned citizen letters to the Secretary of State to have to answer for this. And we're one of the 22 trifecta Republican states, as Dan pointed out. And no matter what you think or do, you have to certainly feel the temperature of the legislature and understand the laws of your state to know to what extent, because most of these folks are going to use the Overton window, which is they're going to try to assess whether it's politically tenable for them to do it. Until we get a Secretary of State in 2026 that is thinking like this, that is thinking mission purpose and not personality or ambition, this is going to continue to happen in our state and any other state. So what we're looking at, just to set the threat landscape, because I am an intel officer, you have 20 years of inattentiveness, lack of public regard for security controls of those voting machines. You can, and we did attempt to put legislation that would have created a critical infrastructure standard. That is a approach. And I'm happy to share any of that with others who would be in the position to actually advocate for that, legislatively speaking. And that kind of puts the legislators in a bind, because if they truly don't support critical infrastructure, then what does that have to say ultimately with regards to their focus and purpose? I think there's also room right now to press ahead, legislatively speaking, in the states for voter ID verification. In Ohio, we exempted mail-in ballots from being copies of photo IDs. We're now coming right back to that 3 years later, after, of course, the executive order, and we're driving hard to close that loophole whereby 1 million Ohio voters are voting without a copy of a photo ID. So I think we're making progress on that front. We'll see some legislation soon. And the other area I think that people are going to be open to at the state level from your legislative perspective is the voter registration laws, the weak eligibility review standards. Fortunately, we just got an injection in the arm with that executive order and the information sharing agreements that are going to be coming. There's going to be a push for the first time. We're going from a combative federal government to a cooperative federal government at the state level. And that's going to offer opportunities. So where we're trying to capitalize on that in Ohio is we're trying to pass legislation that gives all 88 of our counties information systems access, which is equivalent to what our state election official has I know earlier they talked about decentralizing election operations. Well, we're trying to keep it in that way for administration purposes. And so we have to ensure that our counties have the ability to verify for eligibility of identity, residency, and citizenship. Those three areas, I think if we can get that access going, they would be benefactors to it. Another thing we're going to be pushing out in Ohio pretty soon, and other states just did this in Wyoming, Arizona prior to that, New Hampshire prior to that, is documentary proof of citizenship. Again, this is all going to be kind of a force multiplier. You're going to see that executive order, the agreements. Now you need to codify it into law. So it's like a multi-layer approach. So that particular aspect is going to give us the opportunity to assess, ideally, every single voter record that got on in the first place. I think you all were aware, many of you who follow this topic, this week DOJ indicated the method by which many persons who are in the United States illegally receive Social Security numbers. Many of our states, because of laws put forward in 1993, can register with the last 4 digits of their Social Security number. And therein lies our weakness if asylum seekers were given permits and then using those permitted Social Security issued numbers have applied to vote. And so the Social Security Administration, the commissioner there, are doing those checks, and we show about a 19% invalid match record for 2024 under a program called the HAVE. So in other words, they checked 16 million of them and about 3 million of them came back mismatched. So we've got to work toward tightening that up in that aspect of the loophole. So ultimately, as we put this all together, you've just got to get a sense, going through a lot of information there. As much as everybody says, let's get to no early voting, same day voting, no excuse, no mail-in ballots whatsoever, there is no uniform leap here that's going to happen realistically. You have to assess exactly where within your state and the temperature where you've got some room to wiggle. My state is a no excuse absentee ballot. The Republicans did that. They put a no excuse absentee ballot. They put online registration that doesn't require identity proofing. Right? So in other words, somebody using stolen or bought information can go online, register somebody in Ohio, and then what will happen ultimately is if the information matches correctly to a Bureau of Motor Vehicles, they're in. And then we have third-party voter registration groups. Don't lose the dime on them. They're ever present. They're being paid substantial sums to go out and canvass. Again, in the effort to try to prove to somebody that they are so accommodative for voting, Republicans have allowed a lot of this over the course of time. What I'm trying to do, and what I think groups across our state who are with me are trying to do, is we're trying to rebalance that equation. We're trying to say, if you want voter convenience and accessibility, that's one side of a coin. The other side of the coin that you need is you need the ability to first verify effectively for eligibility, and you need the appropriate security controls. And when you have that, which we do not have, then we can have a conversation. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to rebalance the two sides of the coin here, which is what I think election integrity is about. You have to see it, the full spectrum. That's what they taught us in the military. You have to see the landscape of it all. So Congress, of course, has 3 legislative bills. Got the SAVE Act, which will eventually be voted on, which will enhance proof of citizenship and verification, which will afford the states more of an opportunity to get access to the information, the federal side. Of course, you heard Conrad Reynolds talk about, from Arkansas, talk about the Make Elections Secure Act again. I would say that one is pushing for less mail-in ballots, same day, and restoring the ability to cast and count and report ballots at the precinct level. So something more traditional, what we experienced prior to 2000. And then you have one that was released today from the chairman of the Election Integrity Committee in Congress, Claudia Tenney, and Arizona's Abe Hamadeh, which is HR 2499. And what they've done today with that issuance of the bill is they are attempting to codify every aspect of the president's executive order 14248. So what you're seeing is essentially now 3 congressional bills. And what I'm just saying to everyone, and what I'm experiencing momentum on here in Ohio, is when you reference those points, when you show that there is this much activity happening nationally, and you find the right legislators, you build an election integrity caucus within your legislators, you work with amenable central committee members, you force that conversation and a resolution to get out on record. And you use that momentum to drive the next point. and the next point. And every step of the way, you have content, you have substance, you have evidence-based information for these people who don't follow it, who don't enact it like we do. And I think in that sense, like Gary Meyers was saying, that's how we are changing little by little and moving this ball forward. Is we are taking each and every step forward, which is changing the variables for these folks that want status quo. They don't want change. Nobody wants change in public office. They want to be able to say they're doing something, but they don't want to enact it because it's going to create a disturbance in the world that they reside in. And our job is to create a necessary disturbance that is going to get them to recognize and do the right thing. But they've got to fear that, I think, to some degree, as Dan was saying. So that's my presentation. Those are some ideas. As much as we want to lead forward, just put this in context. It's taken 20 years for us to devolve into this current state of losing confidence in many ways and honesty of our election systems. And if we can stick together year after year and chip away at this at each and every state level and fight through it and bring more people on our team, we will prevail in the truest fashions of the American constitutional republic. So that's all I have today. Thank you for the time, Steve. And I hope
Thank
that
you
was
very
okay.
much, Marcell.
You bet.
Raj, can you give me the screen?
Stand by. Okay, great, Steve, you're on.
All right, so before we go on, I want to let everybody know that I will take all suggestions. Raj and I always grab suggestions. And if anybody has a suggestion, I'm going to put my email up, stern1054@gmail.com. My phone number, that's my office number. We won't answer, but we'll call you back, 954-318-6902. And you can go to flagshirt.com to contact us. The important thing is, if you have speakers you'd like to hear, we certainly like to hear from you. We're open to all suggestions. Please take the time to email me. We spend a lot of time doing this. Raj and I work together closely. We work together with everybody who's on this call. It takes a lot of effort to get the people on in time, to keep going on in time. So the next person we have is going to be Dale Richardson. Dale's a good friend of mine. He's in Canada. And, we got all these tariffs going back and forth, and everybody's saying, the Canadians don't like us. We don't like the Canadians. We love the Canadians. Dale Richardson, his daughter lives in, I think, Arizona now. Dale, you'll have to let me know. Dale, come on down. We appreciate you coming all the way in from Canada.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for having me. She's just outside of DC right now, doing some work over there. Raj, are you able to pull up the slides, or do you need me to?
Yes, I can do that. Stand by.
Okay.
I should have had that ready to go. Give me just 30 seconds if you want to keep talking. I'll have that video in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this is going to kind of show how why Biden pardoned Fauci and how COVID was tied to this. And it starts in Canada because the guy we're going to see, his name is Maxime Bernier. They used election fraud to deprive him of the election because he's got policies similar to Trump, and they needed to forward what I'm going to show you now, which impacted the 2020 election. You able to have that up now or not yet?
Yes, so this is a Karis report video that we're going to play. Stand by.
Was not the candidate.
Stand by. Share screen. Share screen, share audio. Great, Dale. Just confirm this is the video you want me to play?
Yes, this is the first one. Yes, this is the one with Maxime.
So was not the candidate of the establishment. So what they did the night of the election, and you can see the video about that, they said, we have a winner. The winner is Andrew Scheer, 51%, Bernier, 49%, and we destroyed the ballots. So just, a couple of hours after the vote, they destroyed the ballot. And the day after, in the Global Mail, the big newspaper in Canada, they were saying that at that time, we were about 240,000 members. And the Global Mail was saying, they had 250,000 votes. So, and they said that, 250,000 people voted, but we had 240,000 members. So they had to create 10,000 votes to be sure that, I won't win. And they did it. They cheated.
All right. So now when we get to the I guess we'll go to the first slide there, because it shows how Peter Daszak and the EcoHealth Alliance was getting money from the NIH and also from the USAID. And so they were funding this to go ahead and put together the pathogen in Wuhan. Do we have the slides up, or do you want me?
So here's what I've got so far. I have the video that I played, and I've got this. I don't have slides unless I'm making a mistake here.
Okay, here, I'll get the PowerPoint up here. Just give me a second here.
Okay, great.
I can do that. Just let me share a screen here. 1 second. Okay. Okay.
I can see your screen. I can see your screen. C19 election fraud. Go ahead.
All right. So this next slide here, this is showing what I was talking about with the EcoHealth Alliance and the USAID and how they were funded to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. What people don't realize is that here in Canada, we had a Chinese scientist that was connected to the Chinese army and so forth here at the Winnipeg Biolab, and they were taking level 4 pathogens, like Nipah virus was one of them, they were sending over to Wuhan. And through the documentation that they had in parliamentary hearings here in Canada, and also with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, they showed that she did have connections to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and so forth, and that was working with mRNA technology, and this was done at the same time that they were doing this over there in Wuhan. And so then eventually both the CDC and the WHO knew the lockdowns and all these things did not work. This is from 2014. They knew that they had to do this in order to go ahead and do what they did in 2020. And now I have a book here called COVID-19 and Negligent Engineering Practices. Will this kill people? This explains how they accomplished this, how they effectively spread the pathogens in order to do what they did. And so this was a lot of crime. Here I have on this next slide, this demonstrates the hierarchy controls that tells you engineering is the first step when you're coming towards getting rid of a pathogen. But they effectively did this wrong, and the CDC was responsible for this, which allowed them to go down to do all these other changes. So you have the crimes there that are outlined. This should have been shut down in 2020 when I brought this forward in Canada. And the doctor here, Dr. John Conley, he was also on the steering committee in the WHO to make sure that they suppressed the aerosol spread so that they could continue the agenda. So now we go over here, you have the NIH that they were confirming that COVID-19 was not naturally occurring. And the paper that I have over there, it demonstrates that the Nipah virus sequencing that came from the Winnipeg Biolab that was taken by that Chinese doctor was put together in Wuhan with Peter Daszak and the EcoHealth Alliance. This is why Dr. Fauci was pardoned, because he had knowledge that the Canadians were taking a level 4 pathogen to a level 2 lab, knowing fully well that it would escape in order to do what they did to take out Trump, right? And so Canada also identified that there was a biological threat and that China had a strong possibility of using pathogens to push their geopolitical agenda, which is exactly what happened in 2020. And they also identified the threats through one of the reports by the GAO in the United States as well. CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, identified that Canada was a high priority target for foreign interference because of its relationship to the United States. And Canada is heavily controlled by China. It's common knowledge that there are MPs right now in the House of Commons in Canada that are under Chinese control, but they won't do anything about it. And this is one of the reasons why, because they needed to conceal what was going on to help to create the circumstances for the election fraud. Canada actually also mentions that the 2020 election was a source of where there could be potential Chinese interference. So we were well aware of this and said nothing. did not share it with anybody, and it's supposed to be allies. Now we have this documentation that demonstrates that the Democratic Party are tied to the biological weapons program. And I have this further on. If you go to follow me at DJS Richardson on X, you'll be able to see some of the threads. I actually talked about this with John Goodman in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, where I outlined this and how this is tied together. And then finally, the NIH puts out a paper that talks about the changes that were made to the elections as a result of COVID. The same COVID that they funded to be released with Peter Daszak and the Eco Health Alliance with the health of the Chinese, which is 100% treasonous activity. And then they go ahead, and this last chart will demonstrate right here all of the different changes. They called it election flexibility, but you can see on this chart here, all of these changes that were made as a result of that COVID were done off the backs of treasonous activity. This is something that needs to be brought forward, because they have used this pathogen expressly to interfere with the 2020 election. And everything that is tied to this is now tied to what they did here, because that created the circumstances for a massive election fraud in the United States, and also subsequent frauds here in Canada, because they have to maintain a China-controlled government to suppress this so that they can continue with this agenda in both of our countries.
Yeah,
And
we
so-
got to cut you off. Unfortunately, we got somebody that's got to come on and got to leave. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll get you on again next time. Raj, you want to talk before Joe comes on? He's got to leave by 4:05. Go ahead, Raj.
He's done. Joe, thanks for being here. Please go ahead and unmute, and you're up, Joe. While Joe, oh, there we go. All right, go ahead, Joe. And if you could stop the share screen, Dale Richardson. Go ahead, Joe, you're up.
Okay, great. Hey, Dale, sorry to interrupt on your presentation there. Good to see you, and thanks for all that you do from our 51st state there, and appreciate you being here anyways. Yeah, Raj and Steve asked me to jump on and offer some up-to-date comments on Tina Peters. I'm not sure if you're aware of it or if it's already been mentioned, but Tina was moved today from a jail to prison in Colorado. And as we all sit back and watch this massive abuse of what's going on in this country, it's almost a bit shocking. I did talk to somebody today too that said that some of the individuals that have been in jail with her are now at this same prison, and there's concerns that they may indeed perhaps even cause her some physical harm. So that's where Tina is moving, unfortunately, and all for, as many of you know, for really having the courage to stand up and say, hey, something's going on here with our elections. And numerous people, many people on this call have been impacted as well for standing up for the truth and saying, hey, something's not right here. And so this seems to be what's happened with the Biden Obama regime. Their tactic, as well as tactics for most communists, is first steal the election, steal the next one, people stop voting, and then show no mercy and absolutely take over a country. Absolutely. We're in those stages right now. President Trump has given us a reprieve, and we've got a few really limited months to get this fixed, because the clock is ticking. I think with this week with Wisconsin, we saw how fragile the system is, especially with the election results there. So one other piece that I could bring.
And Joe, just while we're on Tina Peters, so we know that there's a little bit of confusion with people. Some people say this is going to be Trump's project to resolve. Other people saying no, Trump. This has gotten Tina Peters' case is completely out of the jurisdiction of President Trump. When we chatted earlier today, we did speculate on two people where that massive political pressure needs to be brought down on if we want to make a difference for Tina Peters. Could you comment a little bit about that, please, Joe?
Well, there's a couple people within the state of Colorado that we should put absolute pressure on. One's the governor, and one's the attorney general. And the Secretary of State, of course, is involved in this. As a matter of fact, I think all three are maybe involved in Tina's imprisonment. Today, Raj, I got a word from actually Mac shared me this, that the Attorney General of Colorado has signed on and actually filed a piece of I don't know what you actually call it, a filing with Tina's case, where President Trump and his team announced a couple of weeks ago that they were going to look into this whole situation with Tina Peters and her arrest and her imprisonment, saying that it appears to be way overstated. Well, the Attorney General sided with those that are arguing that President Trump had, basically, he's saying that President Trump has no standing. So that just came out today. We'll have to get that up and share that with you. So that's going on. That's the people we're dealing with. We've got to put pressure on the governor and Attorney General to get her out of there. And I do think the pressure works. As far as your first question, what can President Trump do? Well, one thing is this was a state court and a state crimes that they filed against Tina. So that prevents President Trump from offering a straight up pardon like he could if it was in a federal court. So that puts President Trump's team in a bit of a ringer. But Tina Peters came on my show about a month or two ago now, and she said, hey, we believe that the supremacy clause in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, is on our side, that Tina was not just doing the work of the state when she was arrested, but she was also doing work on behalf of the federal government. It was a federal election, and that she was attempting to maintain records from that 2020 election, which was her job. Which there's, it's not just state law, but there's federal laws that mandate that she do so. So the argument was the supremacy clause states that the federal government supersedes, trumps literally over the state government. And in situations like this, the supremacy clause would come into play and would then provide for Tina relief to this whole situation because she was doing her job. I've talked to a top attorney at the time when this, after she shared this, I'd shared it with Steve Bannon and some others. And a top attorney said, yes, indeed, this is something that should be pursued. And the Department of Justice could now be filing documents with Tina's case and suggest that this is something that needs to be considered, not just the fact that this whole situation, like President Trump has already filed in his team saying that it wasn't right, that it was beyond mean-spirited. It was an attack on Tina Peters, maybe on the American people, but that in addition to that, there's grounds that the supremacy clause, she was doing her job, and that would supersede any of this, and hopefully that too could get her out of prison.
Well, thanks, Joe. Next time we come on, which will be around the 24th, if she's not getting out of prison or if they're not doing anything on appeal, we should go on a national level of having every podcast that it's on here, every show that you're on, every show that everybody's on, calling the governor and the secretary of state and whoever else we got to call, flood them with millions of calls. That's going to make a difference. So let's wait a couple of weeks. And one thing, the next time we come on, explain to everybody, because I know you don't have time, why she got put in jail for this ridiculous event. So thank you very much. I know you got to go for another call.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
And we're going to, Raj, you got anything to say before we get Bill Spadea on? Is Bill on?
Yeah, let's do that. So so a couple of things have been a couple of very important things have been said on this call. Dan Schultz talked about the lack of organization, or said another way, the need for more organization that we need to be doing. And so the reason I brought that up is, as I mentioned on a previous call, we have launched the Trumpet Leadership Bootcamp, Trumpet Leadership Bootcamp, and you can see that over here, Trumpet Leadership Bootcamp. You can see the URL over there. We just launched that on Saturday. If that is of interest to you, please check it out. It is combining the best practices from Trump, Reagan, MLK, Wilberforce, Gandhi, other change makers, and the Bible to provide a biblical basis for being more effective in how we do what we do. So that's number one. Number two, and for this, let me go ahead and share my screen. Screen two, share. Again, want to remind folks to get their garments. So in addition to the guys, a lot of the guys that are speaking here are wearing the flag shirt garments, but there is a huge variety of women's garments, hats, just all kinds of great stuff. And if you want to make a difference for people in your community, just wear this when you go down the grocery store or wherever you are in life, and it just lifts people up. To the flagshirt.com. Shirts that they have from the flag shirt. So whatever you're doing, please wear these garments, get them from the flag shirt, and that helps us put these events together. It takes a amount of resources, time to put this events together. So that's it. Now, continuing on, you heard Joe Hoff talk about the need to apply pressure. And so I want to just give you an example of what is going on in the state of Florida. So what is happening in the state of Florida is that legislation has taken on Trump's executive order to enhance election security. And in that effort, what they have done is they put together HB 1381. So if you go to defendflorida.org, you can see the website behind me on the screen, and you can also see it on the screen here. This is HB 1381, and this may be happening in your state, but for those people that are here, I want to talk about two things. One, here's Trump's president's executive order. I don't have time to go through this. You can do that when you go to defendflorida.org, but you can see Trump's executive order. Here's the bill. The green stuff is stuff we like. The red is stuff we don't like. And so we're doing an analysis on that. And now we do about it, because on time to time again, we keep hearing we need to apply more pressure. We need to. Joe Hoft and I talked about the governor in Colorado. How do you do that? Well, certainly I definitely don't have the master class on that, but there are some things that I can show you that are working. And so what we did is we did on this matter here, HB 1381, on this particular matter here, we did a town hall completely run by volunteers, and with the help of Steve Stern, the Karis Project, Cliff Gephardt, influencers and speakers, we were able to actually exert some pressure. And I want to show you what this looks like, because for those of you that are incensed and outraged by the treatment of Tina Peters for looking out for the rest of us, here is an action that I would like you to take. Go to the website.
There we go.
Let me mute this over here. This is an event that normally takes about 5 weeks to put together, but the volunteers in Pinellas County, which is the county that is the jurisdiction of one of the decision makers on this particular matter, a town hall was put together in about 4 days. And on that town, I'm going to play a few seconds of what happened in the town hall, because whatever you're doing, if you're on this call, it's probably righteous, it's probably right, it's probably important. Whether or not you can pressure the one or two individuals that will get the ball rolling is a thing that you have to ask yourself. And so here is one way we did it in Pinellas County here in Florida on that bill, HB 1381, because bad parts are in that bill.
It froze up, Raj.
Dollars of fraud is being put in the sunlight.
Yes.
Why then is Representative Linda Cheney blocking all of that and instead putting a bill forward that removes surveillance, removes photographs, removes human intervention in audits? Why is she doing that?
She's being told to, and she's not listening to her constituents. She's listening to her puppet master. There you go.
Someone is saying here that Representative Linda Cheney is acting what she's being told to do by special interests, and she's not listening to her constituents. I'm just relaying to you what the people are saying.
She's part of the election fraud.
Wow, that's harsh. Well, someone is saying she's part of the election fraud mafia. This is what Floridians are thinking. This is what Floridians are saying.
Prove us wrong.
Prove us wrong. People are saying, Rep. Cheney, why won't you support Trump's election executive order? No alternatives to birth certificates. No birth certificates, no license.
Oh, hello. Did you say that's great? Yeah. So with the help of the streaming partners, this word got out on Sunday last week. 24 hours later, the bill was gutted and rewritten with 2 important concessions given. The Senate bill was killed and appears to be still dead. We're not saying that the effort you just saw on video is the sole agent to make that change, but what I am saying and advocating to you that are on this call is that's the level that you have to get to. You have to become a massive thorn in their side, and you do that by making massive amounts of noise. That's one way to do that. So if that's of interest to you, please definitely go to trumpetleadershipbootcamp.com to figure out how you can do that in your location. And again, like Steve just mentioned, this injustice being done to Tina Peters, it affects all of us. I know we care about it. That's why so many organizations have done a lot of work on it. You may or may not be interested in the election integrity stuff happening in Florida, but I know that you are deeply affected by what's happening to Tina Peters. This is a type of widespread action that needs to take place regarding the governor, the attorney general in Colorado, and maybe then the ball can move forward. So with that said, I'm going to reel my time back to the next speaker, who is Bill Spades. Let me bring Bill.
Bill Spadea, he's a media personality, and he's running for the governor of New Jersey. And I don't support a lot of people, but I know Bill for a long time. I was up in New Jersey speaking. I was on his radio show. He's a real man, real guy in New Jersey that's got to take over from the Democrats. So, Bill, come on down.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity. Raj, thank you for letting me spend a couple of minutes with you guys. First of all, I hosted the show on New Jersey 101.5 Morning Drive, had a show on Fox TV for 7 years. Last 10, I've been the #1 host with more than 1 million people tuning in. And I have taken that incredible opportunity, and we launched a few years ago a group called the Common Sense Club. The idea of the Common Sense Club was to hold the Republicans accountable and to make sure that we could get involved in local races. And we got involved in hundreds of them and helped more than 400 local candidates win election in New Jersey, because it was the only way to fight back against the aggressive majority Democrats and the far left-wing governor, Phil Murphy. And what happened was, after 2 years of that success, I looked at the Republican Party and the opportunity with an open seat for governor in 2025. Turned out the Republican elite in the back room, all these guys that have been taking crumbs off the table of the Democrats for a couple of decades, were going to nominate the same guy again. So my opponent in the Republican primary, Jack Ciattarelli, who supported licenses for illegals, which we know in New Jersey was a pathway to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fraudulent votes, supported that. And I decided that I would see if I could leverage what I've done on the radio into elected office. So I announced in June, New Jersey is a unique state, everybody. In New Jersey, every dollar you raise is matched by state government and taxpayers with $2. Now, not something that I recommend as a taxpayer, but as a candidate for governor, until I get a chance to change the rules, we're going to live by the rules. So I recently got endorsed by General Flynn. I was very honored and proud to get that endorsement. I'm endorsed by New Jersey Right to Life, National Right to Life, and I've had a great relationship with President Trump over the last few years. He's come on my show several times. We were with him at Bedminster, his golf course, a couple of weeks ago. My wife Jody and I were backstage with him when he came to Wildwood. So we have a very, very solid relationship. I don't know if he's going to get involved in the primary. We're of the mindset that we need to win this on the ground. We've raised a significant amount of money. We get our first 1.5 million check from the state on Friday. We'll get another 1.2 million next week, and we've just begun to fight. We've got 68 days until the primary. Now, on election integrity, we've looked at this. The governor in New Jersey has incredible powers, and it's the most significant power of any executive in any state government across the country. So when I looked at the president's executive order, I believe the governor, through a state of emergency, can actually suspend some of New Jersey's Title 19 and get us where we can start asking for identification to vote. We should be voting in person. In New Jersey, we have early voting. That means people are voting a week before the election. The advantage to that is most Republicans want to vote in person, and it has actually increased our turnout because Republicans now have weekdays a week ahead of time that they can show up and vote in person. So we're going to see how that plays out. But one thing that I proposed two things for when we win this. The first thing is I'm going to audit the chain of custody with all of our county clerks, all 21 county clerks. I want to know what their chain of custody is with these mail-in ballots. Number two, in addition to that, we're going to hopefully eliminate the automatic mail-in ballot system that we have now, where you can just request it for any reason, and you then are registered indefinitely to receive a mail-in ballot. What I want to do is go back to absentee ballots. You know, when I was a first-time voter, we had to make an excuse. We had to show why we were not going to be in the state in order to vote by mail. So we're going to bring that back. But here's the key thing that I've made a big part of our campaign, and that is I want a re-registration of all voters. So we've got more than 5 million registered voters in New Jersey. Registration is not the problem. The problem is that we have thousands and thousands. They just cleaned up about 200,000 voters that got thrown out. I want to require everyone to re-register. And I think like a driver's license, you should have to re-register every 5 years. And that will clean up dead people. That will clean up folks that are registered in multiple places. My wife, Jody, and I, we got the last election, we got 5 ballots mailed to my house, 2 of which we knew were dead people. So it's rampant. It's a problem. I'm running against a guy that decided not to challenge any of the votes in the 2021 election. And just to give you a perspective in New Jersey, this is going to be the bellwether for the rest of the country and how we're going to do in 2026. So I'm here to tell you that I am the true Trump Republican conservative in the race. I've got 2 other opponents, we really have 4, but 2 of them haven't raised any money, so they're not relevant. One is a solid anti-Trump liberal senator from North Jersey. The other is the guy that's now been running for 9 years, and he has spent more than $25 million over that 9 years. This is his 3rd run. He has spent $3 million in the past 6 months attacking me, and it's not sticking. We're in a close race. We're going to go in the field with a poll at the end of this week, and we're hoping that it will be a very close single-digit race coming into next week, and we'll have several million to spend on the air and in digital advertising over the next 68 days. So that's where we are. And just to look at New Jersey, Trump almost won the state, 5.5 points. He would have won it. We know with 900,000 illegals, we know with a lack of voter integrity that it's quite possible this was a 1 or 2 point race. We think the fraud was about 3%. But when given the chance, my opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, in 2021, after he lost to Murphy, declined to challenge any votes, So we took the election integrity fight actually to challenge all of our opponents. And we picked one in particular, this guy, Mario Kranjik, to say, we're going to prove the point that these guys are willing to cheat to even get on the ballot. And we uncovered Democrats signing their ballot petitions, dead people signing the ballot petitions, people that were not registered to vote. The judge was incredibly liberal and let him stay on the ballot anyway, in our opinion, in violation of the law, but it doesn't matter. We proved the point that the establishment backroom Republicans are willing to cheat to get a leg up, which makes them just as bad, in my opinion, as the Democrats. So we're in a great position to win, mainly because in 2021, when we had 2 elections in the country of note, Virginia and New Jersey, Youngkin won with almost identical polling numbers to New Jersey, and Murphy got 4 more years. One difference. In Virginia, 6 out of 10 voters turned out to vote. In New Jersey, 6 out of 10 stayed home. So our grassroots organization, and our friend Elizabeth Nader, I see on this call as well, she heads up our organizations. I had to step away in order to be a qualified candidate, but the Common Sense Club, Common Sense New Jersey, Elect Common Sense, our PAC raised $1 million in 10 months, $11.14 was the average donation. So there is a groundswell. No one has a ground game that matches ours. We are ahead right now in every county that I was the #1 radio show. I'm leading in our internal polls, in some cases by double digits. And what we're going to do is take this all the way to the finish line in the next 68 days, focusing on Morris County, Bergen County, et cetera. But I wanted to prove a point by challenging some of the petitions to show the voters, not only will I challenge to make sure every legal vote is cast, but we will sue when this is done, regardless of the outcome, because even winning, we're going to challenge some of the votes in places where we know there's rampant fraud, because I want to carry a lot of the local races, mayors, council members, boards of ed, over the finish line. And the critical nature there is in New Jersey, we have a policy called 5756, which the Department of Education and the State Board put in, which allows a child to decide they are a different gender and use the opposite sex bathroom, qualify for the locker rooms, get on the sports teams. If a teacher or administrator tells the parents, they can lose their job. So where we won these school board races, in almost every case, about 35 now, have overturned that ridiculous and egregious affront to parental rights and child safety. And we need to see that happen more. Now, of course, I'm going to eliminate it on day one by executive order, but it's important to secure the local governments to prevent this from ever happening again. So that's a lot of information. Is just so you know, pro 2A, served in the Marine Corps, pro-life, pro-Trump. I am the common sense conservative in this race, and I believe we are poised to win this and defeat the Democrats in November.
Bill, how do they reach you, or can they donate to you?
So we need every dollar, and no dollar amount is too small. The maximum donation is $5,800, but we're happy to take $7 instead of buying that latte at Starbucks. Just put it on our website. It's SpadeaForGovernor.com. That's SPADEA for FOR governor.com. SpadeaForGovernor.com. I hope to be in touch, and I'd love to come back on again and give you a progress report.
So we have a lot of podcasters on here that are streaming this, as well as many stations.
Awesome.
So if they want to reach you on a personal level, how can they get a hold of you?
I'm going to give you my cell phone number. So if anybody wants to jot this down, it's best to reach me directly. And, you know, we've got a whole team, so we don't fall too far behind. 908-403-1664. And it best, to be honest, if you would text me. Thank you for putting it in the chat, Melissa. 908-403-1664. Don't call first, text first, so I know who it is. And because my phone, as you can imagine, blows up, I'm the most accessible person that I think has ever run for governor. But you know, I'm a media guy, and you know, I think conversations and accessibility are critical to leadership. You need to hear from the people.
Thank you very much, Bill. We really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you,
good
Steve.
luck running, and we'll get you back on again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate everyone. Take care.
Got it. All right. Our next person is Linda Payne, Election Integrity Project, California. She was one of my first people 2 years ago, and we're happy to have her back in if she's on. Is she on?
I am. Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome.
Very good. Okay, I got 10 minutes. I'm gonna narrow in what I'm telling you today, and I'm really excited that you're all still here, because this is a long endurance race. EIPCA, we started in 2010, so we're just starting our 15th year. But our focus this year is regarding a research that we did of doing an audit of the 2022 certified election in California, and we wanted to see if anything changed with California's election laws. There's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of shenanigans, and we know that in 2024, we were anticipating that there were going to be flip seats as usual. So we were able to order the exact snapshot of the data that was certified in 2022, and we began our work on it. I'm just going to read you really quick what we identified is after the 2022 election was certified and sent in, when we ordered that data 2 years later, it had changed by 70,000 votes. Now, we all know this is illegal. The thought that we had is, why didn't someone catch it at the federal level, and who's even looking at it at the federal level? But the numbers look like this. Bottom line, there were a double and triple voting was 22,000. LA County alone had 49,777 votes that were rejected and counted, double and triple. People who voted with the same exact ID number, double and triple. The bottom line between, if you take out all the ballots that were added and the ballots that were taken away, and those ballots, if they belong to legitimate voters, were disenfranchised because they lost their ballot. Bottom line, we sent a letter to the Secretary of State on September 7th, asking very specific questions about the data. We gave her the exact flash drive with the numbers. And of course, they ignored us. LA County, we also asked specifically how in the world did they change numbers after certification. Because they ignored us, we asked our attorneys with Advocates for Faith and Freedom to get involved and challenge their unwillingness to even talk to us. In California, there's an election code 2300 that allows citizens to ask questions and receive answers, and they have to answer. And if they can't answer, they have to direct us to someone who can. So because they refused to answer, our attorneys filed a peremptory writ of mandate, letting them know that we're not going to sue them, they just answer the questions. By the way, our open letter to the Secretary of State is on our website, eip-ca.com. You can see the press release we sent out, letting people know that we were challenging this act that they took to change the numbers after certification. And in that letter, there are live links to some of the information, but you can see the chart where we give you those numbers. As of that time, that first peremptory writ, we cited in that writ all of the counties that made changes after certification. And that meant all of the counties in the state of California, except Little Modoc County, changed the numbers after certification, with LA County being the largest. In communicating with the smaller counties, our attorneys met with their attorneys, and they agreed to make changes in their procedures to ensure that that didn't happen in 2024. But LA County refused to talk with our attorneys, and so did the Secretary of State. So we amended the writ to let the smaller counties off the hook with the understanding they would make changes. And we continued with this the writ with LA County and Secretary of State. So right now, they have another week or two to either answer the questions. They still haven't. Those questions are on the website. If they don't, then our attorneys are taking the next step and filing an actual lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the thinkings that they're putting into it. But it does appear that there is criminal action potentially, because we know that congressional seats were secured by the elections in 2022, and we do know from our work of the voter rolls that the seats that were flipped would have been Republicans, and the seats that were seated were Democrat. We're a nonpartisan organization, but the facts are the facts, and so we're continuing to challenge that. We'll take it as high as it goes. We're excited about President Trump and his team being in action. We're excited that DOJ is doing what they're doing. We want them to look at these numbers and to go as deep and wide as they can, go to the highest level of governance, if it's the president, to challenge the 2022 questions as to who is sitting in Congress, because ballots were added after certification. Anyway, we're doing that. We're also continuing we're putting together a memo actually for Congress. We'd like to make some recommendations from California. Most of the country thinks that Californians voted to destroy themselves. And I continue to tell everyone that is the furthest thing from the truth. Californians are fierce. Our team is 20,000 observers. We've trained 20,000 observers since we started in 2010, who've observed 40 out of 58 counties, election after election after election. And so we can prove that these laws in California, which are being implemented in all of your states, that they are unconstitutional because they create a system that can be manipulated. So I know I don't have too much more time. I think I have 2 more minutes. And so I don't know if there's any questions, or I can open it up to questions if someone has a question.
If you could put your contact information again on the chat, if you could put your contact information again on the chat. And as we begin to wrap this up, a couple of very important things that I'd like to share with you, my friends. And that is, again, I know you're probably going to get tired of hearing this, but I do want to ask you to go to this website here, the flagshirt.com. You can see that at flagshirt.com, because your purchases there actually do make a difference for having this event take place. There's so many people that have to be paid to do work, a lot of expenses. So
You're breaking up a little bit, Raj. Can they hear me, Raj? We may have lost the video. Can somebody raise their hand? Linda, can you raise?
We can hear you.
Okay, so we can't hear Raj. He's breaking in and out, but let me just go back. We have a lot of computers in our control room today, and we're looking at all the chat. And a lot of the chat, thanking Raj for everything he's doing. They're also saying communication is the most important thing. That's what I believe in. The reason we hold this is to communicate to all the people that are out there that don't get to listen or know what's going on in election integrity in many fields. So it's very important. Again, I'm going to hold this up again. You have my email. Let me know what you'd like to see or hear. We try to bring a variety of people on today. We think it's very important for the New Jersey governorship. Very important. We got to get a Republican in there, and I'm going to go out, and I don't endorse many people, but I'm going to, and I've only endorsed maybe 3 candidates in my life. One of them, of course, was President Trump, and I'm going to endorse Bill Spadea for governor. So, and again, if anybody wants to email me on sstern1052@gmail.com, I want your comments. You can call me at 954-318-6902. And I think, Raj, you can put your information up because you have a lot to offer. You don't always get a lot to speak because I take it over, but go ahead, Raj. It's all on yours, but you are coming in and out.
All right, good. How's the audio now, Steve? Is that better? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, awesome, great. All right, thank you, Steve. So back to the effort that needs to take place to get this done. Please go to the flagshirt.us. We're going to put that on the screen again here. The flagshirt.com. The flagshirt.com. Go to the flagshirt.com. If you are here and you're watching this on the live stream, you probably are not getting our emails with all the information. We'd love for you to get the emails. If you'd like to get the emails, just text the word elections to 91776. Text the word elections to 91776. A lot of people are asking about the leadership program that I mentioned earlier. That is on the screen here, right over here. And so if you would like to check out the leadership program, simply go to trumpetleadershipbootcamp.com. trumpetleadershipbootcamp.com. If you want to see the video of that town hall meeting that I mentioned earlier, we think it did help with the changes to this bill. And we think more important than that is you doing your version of that would make a difference in your neck of the woods. If you'd like to see that video, simply go to defendflorida.org, defendflorida.org. So with that said, I think that wraps us up, Steve, until the next one.
Our next one is going to be the 24th. I want everybody to go to Stern American and follow me, and also follow John Goodman on X. He really helps me. He works very hard. We'll try to get him on again. Again, have a happy Easter and a happy Passover. Thank you all for all your contributions, all your information that you're sending us. It takes a lot to get these speakers on, and people don't realize that we're behind the scenes calling them. Sometimes they get called out and they can't come on. We have an apology from Catherine Engelbrecht, who got laryngitis, and she said I couldn't talk if I wanted to, so she'll be on the next one. A lot of people asked me why she wasn't on. That's why. She emailed me about 6 this morning, said I can't talk. There's Rumble, Stern American. You can see everything we're doing. I'm glad to interview anybody that'd like to get interviewed. And thanks again to everybody. This is a great effort on the people of all our podcasters who make this happen, because, Stern American started with 100 people. We got today, I think they said we got somewhere in 18,000. Sometimes we get 40,000. That's unbelievable when you think about when you start 100 and you reach. So the communication, the words getting out, the most important thing today is Tina Peters. We love her. We are going to make an effort. I'm going to take a lot of time to do this. and get on any program I can get on to get her released from prison. Thanks again to everybody and happy holidays.
Hey, one other thing, Steve, Dale, if Dale is still here, people are asking for Dale Richardson's contact info. Dale, if you're here, please repost that. I'm looking here. But yeah, you are here, Dale, so please put your contact information again on the chat. Thank you for that. Stern American, people are asking, how do you get the replays? As Steve just mentioned, I just want to say it again, very easy on how you get the replays. sternamerican.com, click on the Rumble button, and you can see all the videos here. We had some audio problems for that town hall meeting, so if you're wanting to watch that and the audio problems are on, you hear the audio problems easy, go to defendflorida.org and you have clean audio there. See you at the next meeting. Stay active, stay strategic, and look for where you can go out of your comfort zone, because that's what's going to be needed to save our republic. With that, we'll go ahead and end the call. Thank you, everybody.